Thanks for being here. Subscribe to Cheating Stories Best, so you don't miss new stories.
So what did the DNA test show? Who's the real father? Today's story has a similar plot. Enjoy watching it. Alan Palmer was far from here, dreaming over a cup of coffee in the hotel lobby. I had just closed my laptop and was thinking about my wife of 12 years, mother of my 3 children. Images of her and her lover's usual sweet early Wednesday evening flashed through my mind. At that moment, they were having an intimate. I had a contract that obviously wasn't worth the paper it was written on. She signed it after vowing to give up everyone else. Evidence to the contrary testified to this lie. This environment was business as usual for them. So, for them, it was business as usual. It was difficult for me to think about anything else. My ears were blocked at the sound of my name. I reacted slowly and turned my head towards the speaker. She was tall and slender, an attractive redhead with a rather hesitant smile on her flawless face. I didn't recognize her and looked at her first down and then up again. She was dressed in an elegant blue-striped business suit that showed off the most beautiful knees and legs I had seen in a long time. Both her hands were occupied with an elegant, thin briefcase and an expensive black leather handbag. I think I smiled back at her more out of embarrassment than welcome, desperately trying to place her face among recent acquaintances, former work colleagues, friends' wives, school moms, or clients of the gym I'd recently joined. I knew for sure that she would undoubtedly look good in running shorts, otherwise, nothing. Complete emptiness. I didn't know her from Eve. She obviously knew me, that was obvious. Perhaps she was a messenger from the lawyer who had seen my photograph. Sorry, I said stupidly. There was something intangibly familiar about her, but that something eluded me. I tried to figure out where I could have seen her before. I estimated she was about 35 or 36 years old, about 10 to 12 years younger than me. I lost all my hair a long time ago and have been shaving my head for about 10 years now, so she must have known me somewhere in decades past. My eyes were probably still wet from seeing and thinking about my wife being so wonderfully by her lover, and through my tears, it was almost impossible to fully focus on this stranger's face. Anyway, that's my excuse. I was sure of one thing, the redhead was a cool customer, far from my level. Heck, at my age, with my looks and current relationship circumstances, they all were. Her bright smile froze at my lack of recognition, and her face quickly took on a frown. Her lips pouted, and she looked well offended. It was crazy. No one looked offended around me, upset, angry, disappointed, furious, especially disappointed, but not offended. After all, I was the #1 dumbass of all time. Who cared what I thought? Where was my life anyway? My sweet wife, who was 10 years younger than me, was a successful editor of a large circulation women's magazine. I sacrificed my career as an advertising copywriter to become a stay-at-home husband. It was funny to me. I was reduced to the role of a caring father for my 2 sons, 11 and 3 years old, and my daughter, 7 years old. Meanwhile, my wife had supposedly been hanging out with her boss at work for years. A recent DNA test of my children showed that I'm not even remotely related to any of them. I had lost whatever features I might have started with, and my body had allowed itself to get fatter. I was now at my lowest level of self-confidence. I was never even vaguely confident. I even doubted my sanity, knowing that nothing was working out for me and I was miserable as sin. Even knowing what I should do and what I had already started to do did not give me strength, and my actions only confirmed how completely ignorant and hopeless I had been my entire life. Just sitting in the coffee shop of this luxury hotel, watching the elevator doors and waiting for my wife and her lover to come out before running into them both. However, short of killing them, I was powerless to do anything about their affair other than end my involvement in her life. On top of that, I had to deal with this beautiful redhead who was practically growling at me because I couldn't remember who the hell she was, so I frowned back. Who was she to criticize my underdeveloped cognitive abilities? Didn't she know that I had a lot of work lately and it was up to the top of my skinny neck? She resolutely extended her jaw, leaned towards me, and punched me quite hard in the chest. She exposed her perfect white teeth and said in a low, soulful voice, "Just because you left me as your girlfriend 20 years ago doesn't mean you can treat me like a complete stranger. After all this time, we lived together for 5 damn years. One day, you even proposed to me, you fool, __. She pointed a finger at my bruised chest to emphasize each of the last 3 words. Then, she threw herself into the soft leather chair opposite me, threw her briefcase and bag on the table between us, slammed my empty coffee cup into the soft surface, and continued to look at me expectantly, with folded hands, waiting. While my exhausted mind ran through images of her, none of them matched. "Not quite Leslie?" I asked, not believing such a possibility for a moment. "Leslie Collins? Who did you take me for, Florence?" "Damn it, Alan," she snapped. "But you can't be like that." I muttered, You are young and beautiful." Her frown softened, and her once so familiar bright smile returned to pierce my heart just below the fresh bruises. I didn't think my pain could become any worse, but at that moment, it intensified. I really didn't need this, please, God. I never asked for anything, as you know very well, but don't let me have 2 of my worst nightmares at the same time, Leslie, my God. "I can't believe it," I stammered, using as much effort as my weak knees could handle to stand from the deep leather chair and lift her from mine to hug her tightly. I didn't dare kiss her, as I had already noticed the wedding ring and engagement ring with a huge stone or eternity ring on her left hand. It was impossible not to notice them. "Wow, muscles," she said approvingly, her hands running over my shoulders and upper arms as we parted. "Do you play sports, Alan?" I'm impressed. I must have turned bright red, my face was burning hot. "I've been going to the new complex in the school gym for a month now, 5 times a week in the morning," I explained. I received a week of free classes as an introductory offer, and I enjoyed concentrating my anger on the machines and punching bags so much that about 3 weeks ago, I signed a 6-month contract. Although I still don't have any abs to speak of, I grinned stupidly. Oh my God, I thought. When I'm nervous, I say all kinds of nonsense. Stay here longer, and you'll get used to how pathetic I am. We both sat down at the table, holding hands. Damn, I thought instinctively, running my thumb over her diamond ring. It was just huge in comparison. The yellow diamond chip ring I bought for her and lost a fortune when I sold it back to the jewelers seemed pathetic. I removed my thumb and deliberately stroked the knuckles of her index and middle fingers. "Anyway," I added, as beaming as my frazzled ego would allow, maintaining my first smile since dropping my son Nat off at play school and greeting the friendly household. "What happened to you? You've probably lost more than 22 kilograms since I last saw you. You look absolutely stunning. No wonder I didn't recognize you at all. You're not blonde anymore." She laughed. "I only looked blonde thanks to bleach when we were together. I naturally have light brown hair, but now I prefer this auburn look. I changed it and joined the gym, funny enough, almost immediately after you." "You?" "I never abandoned you," I protested. "It was you who left me the very moment I asked you to marry me." I remembered it too clearly and had nightmares about it for years afterwards. 5 years and 2 damn months together, and you refused me and admitted that you wanted to have a night with other men. Not with another man or just someone else, but with men, in the plural. God, I'm so pathetic. I always fall in love with the wrong damn woman at the wrong damn time. No, let it be every damn woman I've ever loved, every damn time. We let go of each other's hands and looked at each other again. I think we were both clenching our fists. I know I squeezed. I couldn't see her hand because I was rigidly maintaining eye contact, just as I imagined I would do when faced with a hissing, spitting cobra. "I never left you," she insisted, and then continued in a more deliberate tone. "I just said that we should see other people before the wedding, and then we didn't see each other again until now." Her steely blue-gray eyes glowed as she spat her last words in my direction. The new hair color suited her. She had a very short temper, and I was clearly not in her good books, and probably never had been. To be honest, I didn't have a single positive entry in anyone's book right now. I was loved only by my children, but they were not even my children, as I recently discovered. Wait a minute, I thought. She's trying to get away with leaving me to justify her cruel actions all those years ago. Does she still think I'm a weakling? Well, she picked the wrong day for it. No, that's not true, I stated firmly, struggling to maintain composure and a level voice as I explained the situation we found ourselves in half a lifetime ago. when you rejected my marriage proposal, you said that you weren't sure that I was the one. Yes, I made little bunny ears with the index and middle fingers of both hands when I said that. I couldn't help myself. Okay, I continued, and you said you wanted to try other partners to see if you could find the one. It clearly wasn't me because you said, while I was still on bended knee and everyone in that restaurant was looking at us, that you would know it when you find it. Bunny ears again. I'm so pathologically predictable. In any case, I am completely fine now. We lived in the same apartment for 5 years and almost 2 months, for God's sake. So I clearly wasn't the one, was I? I loved you enough to devote my life to you, and then you basically admitted that you never truly loved me. I wasted these 5 years and more. Well, I hope you found the one in the end. I even surprised myself that I posted all this without interruption. I think Leslie was stunned. A long moment passed as she looked at me with round eyes, her lips trying to form a circle to keep her jaw from hitting the table before she answered, quite quietly, almost too quietly for me to hear, yes, I think so in the end. And you? Not really. I think I've calmed down. I was still seething, but you're wrong, so wrong, Alan. I really loved you. It's just that I was confused. Then the next day at work, I kept thinking about you. And when I got home, desperate to see you so we could make up, you had already moved out. You left your empty drawers open and disappeared. I was devastated. I was going to ask you to propose to me again, but you disappeared, and I never saw or heard from you again. Who does this after 5 years and 2 months of marriage? Where the hell have you gone? It didn't seem to me that you were confused, I snapped, still full of anger. You said no very clearly, and then went on about how you wanted to date other men, that we should see other people, I explained, reminding her. You mentioned that you needed to get more experience, probably to see if I can handle this damn task in bed or something like that. In fact, you said that you had been thinking about this for some time and had not found the right moment to bring this matter to my attention until that damn night in the restaurant when I was on my knees offering you a ring after spending most of a month's salary on it. Well, being asked to make a decision about my future at a time when I had already been seriously thinking about our relationship for a couple of months certainly focused my mind. She looked towards her hands, her rings breaking eye contact with me for a moment. She looked up again. On our 5th anniversary together, I thought you were going to pop the question then. I couldn't, I interrupted. Let me finish, Leslie waved me off. I'll let you speak. I nodded obediently. I was expecting your proposal and was going to say yes, but you never proposed. We went to the zoo for the whole day with a picnic. We cuddled on the grass on a blanket and held hands all day. We made love as soon as we returned. We didn't even get to the bedroom. The landing floor was all we got to, our clothes were strewn all over the hallway and stairs. We made love 2 more times when we got to the bedroom and again on Sunday morning. It was a wonderful day and night, and you didn't ask me to marry you, you stupid. I was still saving up for the ring, I begged, softening. It cost me a fortune. I couldn't take out any more loans because I was at the maximum limit, and it took 4 months before I raised enough money, which was twice as long as I had hoped. I even had your sister find out your finger size so it would fit. I couldn't ask you to marry me without a wedding ring, could I? Gee, she said, reaching out and taking my hands again. I was heartbroken when you left me a couple of days later. I took a day off from work and went to where you worked, but you were no longer there. I know they said that you left the day before and left no notice, no forwarding address, nothing. Your P45 arrived in the mail at the apartment about 6 weeks later. That first night, I tried to talk to your mom, but she wouldn't talk to me. She called me heartless and said that I broke your heart and that you moved away. The elevator dinged, and I looked past Leslie, but there were only a couple of strangers and a teenage girl in TCT striped tights. I thought about looking at the laptop again to see if they were done or in the shower or still unconscious, but I couldn't bring myself to look. Even if Leslie wasn't there, some images were forever seared into my skull, and I didn't want to reinforce any of them. The lawyer could access the recording that the private investigator had arranged, and she was paid well enough to handle it. I just wanted it all to end. Leslie was an unexpected complication that I could have done without. The waitress, who seemed to be hovering over the tense exchange between us, noticed my gaze and took a hesitant step towards me. She was quite pretty, I noticed. Perhaps it was a sign that I had already forgotten Adel. There's little chance that this will happen in a hurry. I nodded at her and picked up my empty cup as the waitress walked over to our corner. The name tag pinned to her starched blouse read one word, Rosie, a beautiful name for a beautiful girl, I thought. It somehow suited the classy hotel, unlike my wife and her lover upstairs. Would you like some coffee, Leslie? I asked. It's very tasty here. Yes, please. Actually, that's what I came here for, she replied, turning to the waitress with a smile. Large skinny latte, please. I'll still have a big black filter, thank you, I ordered, trying to smile. Rosemary smiled back at me and left with my empty cup. I made a mental note to leave her a good tip. Scotland, I said. Scotland. A month in Edinburgh, then 18 months in Glasgow, followed by a couple of years in London, and I came back here about 15 years ago. That's the answer to your question. Where did you go? I followed you to Edinburgh after your P45 showed up. First, I went back to your company here and spoke to your buddy, the other copywriter in the office, Peter or Paul or whatever. Paul, I clarified. He was never exactly a friend. It wasn't, Leslie snorted. He made me go out with him twice before he gave me any information. Man, I growled. Even after 20 years, it still annoyed me. I guess some things are never forgotten. Did they get married? Was he the one who bought her that ring? Did I really want to know? Hell yeah, I wanted to know, but I would never ask. No, I definitely won't ask, I concluded firmly. Leslie interrupted my thoughts. Yes, that Paul. He kept trying to get under my skirt. Leslie hesitated and then smiled as if recalling some magical memory. He really thought he could charm his way into my heart. Okay, she was my ex-girlfriend whom I once cared about so much that it still hurt me to this day. My thoughts screamed in my head as I struggled to maintain my poker face. Leslie didn't seem to notice, she just kept talking. I had to give him a piece of my mind at the wine bar that used to be on Church Lane. It's now a specialist butcher. They make great sausages there. That put that idiot in his place, he cried real tears. Then he told me you had gone to their Edinburgh office to work out your notice. Bloody blowhard got what he deserved. Good old Leslie, I thought wryly. I've never been prouder of her, even if she never physically hit me where it hurts. In the restaurant, when I knelt and moved my leg to the side, it always felt like she had. I still bear the bruises from that metaphorical blow 20 years later. At the time, I even hated Leslie. Can you believe it? Here she was, the love of my life, and for a few moments, I actually stopped loving her and let my feelings go in the completely opposite direction. Leslie was still talking over my scattered thoughts. Do all women have dragons in their mouths, or just the ones I know? By the time I got to Edinburgh, you were gone, she continued. They repeated the story that you only worked there for a month and then left. I spoke to Justine for a long time. I think she liked you, which is probably why she opened up to me. To find out more about your story, she said that during that month, no one could reach you, although they tried everything to make you stay. But you left. She saved some of your best slogans and advertisements. She showed them to me, pasted into an album. Dear girl Justine, a talented artist, I reminisced. Justine thought you were special. Definitely very special. She was disappointed that you were completely immune to her obvious charms. Charming if you don't mind girls with big breasts who speak with funny accents, Leslie chuckled. Then your trace disappeared. I tried contacting your agency, but they couldn't give me any information. I even tried reaching out to your mom again, but she still refused to talk to me. What happened to you, Alan? I hung around, working as hard as I could, still trying to get my stuff published. Freelancing for several advertising agencies in Glasgow and then London. Spent some time proofreading for magazines and book publishers. Then I settled down, got married, had a bunch of kids, and here I am. Wow, Leslie said, breaking the silence. That was a quick overview of your life. I had nothing to say. I was still staring at the elevator doors, waiting for my wife and her companion. So Leslie spoke again to fill the silence. So, I already told you, I went on a date about 6 weeks later. But it was just to try to track you down, not to try other men, you know. And I know you fended off the black-haired, green-eyed beauty that was Justine, she teased coyly. How long did it take before you went on a date again? What was she trying to do to me? Was she trying to crush me every time she saw me? I sighed loudly, my shoulders slumping. I suddenly realized I had been trying to strike a pose, shoulders back, chest forward, stomach sucked in, for what? I wasn't interested in getting Leslie entangled again. Twice bitten and all that, she definitely wasn't interested in me. So why do we men adopt these poses? I haven't seen this woman in 20 years. Once upon a time, she was the girl of my dreams. But then, she practically squeezed all the vitality out of me. Not satisfied with that, she now seemed to want to consign me to the ground, to erase my very existence, my essence. What did I do to her besides worship the ground she walked on? 39 months, I said quietly. What? Leslie leaned forward conspiratorially. 3 years, 3 months, and about 10 days, I clarified. This finally silenced her. Damn, 15 to 40 new balls, and please, I've stopped the rot in my serving game. I looked at her face. She looked amazing, you would never guess she was 45. She must have been bathing her skin in virgin ice crystals delivered daily from Mont Blanc. She was an 11 out of 10, off the charts. Simply beautiful. However, I felt like some gears were turning in her head. Goodbye tonight, both in one evening, I said. Well, actually, after midnight, the second of 2. Wow, I was going to brag about how long I waited, but now I guess I won't. It's just childish, isn't it? Just as I told you mine, you should at least tell me about yours. It didn't look like she was going to answer. Ice Queen, I muttered. I was right about the Mont Blanc ice, only she was sitting on a block of ice instead of splashing it on her face. Okay then, I said, changing tack. When did you start dating your husband? Oh, do we really have to do this? She whined. We're too old, and there's too much water under the bridge for all this. Can't we just kiss each other on the cheeks, pretend we're old friends again, and part on good terms, probably never seeing each other again? Dodge, dodge, twist, twist. You were evasive in that restaurant to my eternal embarrassment 20 years ago. You're evasive in this cafe now when we meet again as 2 old retirees. Can we meet in the laundry room so I can at least do a week's worth of laundry while you dance around the mulberry bush once more? Good, good, I'll tell you. Leslie looked up, either in search of inspiration or divine intervention. Give me strength. She looked straight at me, her eyes seeming softer, even more beautiful than ever. I thought you'd be back the next day, she said quietly. Then maybe after the weekend, almost certainly a week later. But you never showed up. No one admitted they knew where you were. I realized our friends were my friends, and you didn't seem to have any of your own that I knew about. It seemed like your whole world was me. I never realized how much I hurt you, hurt us, killed our relationship. She took my right hand in both of hers and squeezed it as tightly as Natalie did when David was born. A single tear formed in each eye and slowly rolled down her cheeks. I raised my left hand and ran my thumb over her right cheek, soft as a child's and smooth as alabaster, wiping away a tear. Then I gently wiped her left cheek, rubbing the back of my hand upward. She smiled sweetly and continued. So, I gave it a month. That was enough to repay me for my treatment of you, wasn't it? But no show. 4 months later, it was your birthday. I sent you a card, a long letter, and flowers to your mother's address. Then I sent Christmas cards to you both. You didn't send one, just like your mom. She didn't answer her calls and slammed the door in my face when I came for New Year's. I sent another card on Valentine's Day. Then it was our 6th anniversary. We hadn't seen each other for 10 months, and I didn't hear from you. Finally, a year had passed since you left, and I had no hope left. I lost a lot of weight. Summer came, and I lost my house too. I couldn't keep up with the payments myself, and my savings ran out. After I sold the house, I sent your mom a check for your half. Did you receive it? Yes, I received it. Mom kept your cards and mail for me, and I picked them up that summer while driving by. That year, I used that $65,000, along with my savings, to put a down payment on a house. And when did Mr. T. Carrots appear? I pointed to her beautiful blue and white diamond. About 14 and a half months after you left. In addition to a new wardrobe to suit my new body, I spent the remaining money on living expenses, sharing an apartment with a couple of friends, Allison, whom you don't know, and my best friend Lucy, whom you probably remember. I remember Lucy, I smiled. She could turn jeans and t-shirts into an art form. What happened to her? It's better for you not to know. No, it's worth it. What if I wanted to? What if I suddenly became a free man, for example? I grinned mischievously. Leslie sighed. For children, for different fathers, none of whom ever paid a penny in child support. She paused. The only way she can fit through doors is sideways, like a crab. She looked at me with her mouth tightly compressed, tilting her head to one side, as if to say, I told you wouldn't want to know, but you didn't take no for an answer. Are you happy now? Well, Leslie didn't know that my own situation was about to be completely turned upside down. So I kept all my options open. Lucy, who knows? Maybe she was as desperate as I was. So, you lived in the same apartment with Lucy and Allison. What next? What then? Lucy worked part-time as a secretary, and her office hosted a summer picnic for employees and their families. Lucy brought me along as a guest. There I met my husband, and we sort of became close. So there was a date, and then intim. No, first night, then a date, Leslie blushed. In fact, we hardly went on dates at all. We mostly met for intimate. We were both so busy with work that we mostly only met for intim. I know this sounds really bad, but I hadn't had anything in a long time, 15 months, the 15 cycles when I was at my most fertile, and I didn't have what I was really missing. You were gone forever, and my hormones were screaming at me. He was stunningly handsome. He still is, actually, and still dynamite in the bedroom. Okay, too much information, I interrupted. The damn Mont Blanc ice she was sitting on must have melted and flowed down the drain. Her face was so red. Damn, why do women look even pretty when they're embarrassed and out of control of their emotions than when they act icy calm and controlled? Or is it just me? Was he your only lover? Without thinking about the consequences, I muttered, why am I torturing myself by asking her this? No, it's impossible. Every man in this room, every man who walked past us almost ran into something because he was looking at Leslie. Health and safety should force her to carry a fluorescent warning sign. She couldn't limit herself to just 2 lovers, especially after she unceremoniously dumped me. No doubt, just to play in the field, she nodded. Damn, again, I know that women cannot be trusted, and this one in particular, never from bitter, bloody experience. But I believed her. It didn't make me feel any better that she was married to Mr. Damn Perfect Lover. So, Leslie, I continued, what have you been up to lately? I smiled. There was so much I wanted to say and so much I didn't. Since then, I decided I could just give a quick sketch, leaving out all the important details. Or, of course, I could dump it all on her. Well, since I'm already getting coffee, maybe you can tell me the latest events first. She looked at me, trying to understand what I was thinking or what I was hiding. Why am I playing with her? A slow, mysterious smile appeared on her full, red lips. She was made up perfectly, not heavily, but enough to darken and perhaps lengthen her eyelashes from the light brown natural ones I remembered. Her lips were a glossy red, her cheeks smooth and matte, no doubt from subtle cosmetic prep. Her auburn hair, thick and full, was pulled back from her open forehead and styled into a neat bun at the back of her head, a few strands softening her delightful contours like a gentle whisper. She looked amazing. I am an investment broker, advising on life insurance, ISAs, income tax, and investment portfolios. I work in the area for the National Lottery. This morning, I met a nice older couple here in a hotel room who had won the jackpot and left them with a few suggestions to consider. Leslie paused, a smile on her face as she recalled the recent meeting. No doubt, I encouraged. I live in West Park. Her voice rose as if she was asking if I knew about exclusive executive homes in the area. I knew, but it was far from my place of residence. We have one daughter, Belinda, who is studying catering at college and wants to become a pastry chef, perhaps have her own store, or pursue 3-day events professionally. She smiled, remembering her daughter. I imagine what Belinda was like. She could have been our daughter in another life, as beautiful as Leslie, I'm sure, since she had to be at least 18 to attend college. Leslie didn't seem to wait long to find the one. It took me 3 years before I started dating anyone, by which time Leslie was the mother of a small child, still keeping a sweet smile on her beautiful face. Leslie asked softly, "And you?" I think I snorted involuntarily. It wasn't a very good start. Why should I be offended by her perfect life? A full-time, high-paying job, a beautiful house, probably driving around in a high-end BMW or Lexus with a beautiful, ambitious daughter, a happy-as-hell husband, and looking amazing herself. Life really wasn't fair, was it? But no one ever promised me justice. Leslie never promised me anything. I clearly took her for granted. So everything that happened to end our relationship was my fault. She was perfect, and I'm not just saying that. She was, and I always thought so. Perhaps too perfect for the little, former, imperfect me. The fact that I was only an intermediate link in her life was not her fault. We lived together for 5 years and 2 months. It was one of the best 62 months of my life, and I have to be grateful and thank her for it. It was much more than I deserved. Only the time spent with my children from my marriage came close to this ideal period. Emphasizing the positive, I thought, this was the day I could be assertive and when I finally took my destiny into my own hands. So, I pulled my lips into the biggest smile I could muster and told her the saccharine version of my life. Actually, I have a wonderful life, I said. And after today, it will become even better. I paused briefly as a smiling Rosamond approached with a tray containing our coffee. I helped her unload them and thanked her before she cheerfully returned to her station. The view from behind of the departing waitress was as good as the view from the front, and my gaze naturally lingered. Leslie looked at me with a questioning look. I grinned. I couldn't help it. At this moment, I suddenly became very happy. The veil of suffering lifted, and I felt surprisingly good. It was as if I had finally accepted my fate, that I had reached the lowest point I could possibly reach, and it could only get better. Okay, looks like I'll have to add a little extra to the artificially sweetened tale I've been meaning to weave, I said. Leslie, you caught me at a moment when my life is at a crossroads. Today, everything is changing. This sad, pathetic, bald, slightly overweight nonentity has been pushing me around for over 25 years. Sorry, darling, I continued, holding and squeezing one of her hands and taking a deep breath. I was a little unfair in including you in my life of subservience. Today, my 12-year marriage has finally ended, although I now understand that it never really began in the first place. I was deceived, cheated into a marriage that never really existed. I have no career other than writing a few short romantic stories for a women's magazine for pocket money. I am a stay-at-home husband, taking care of my 3 children. I paused, collecting my thoughts on how much to say, what to leave out. After all, after today, I'll never see Leslie again, will I? Go on, Leslie urged. In those years, you wrote all the time but could not publish, except for advertising texts for an advertising agency. You are the most loving and sensitive person I have ever known, and I see that you have become a great father. Please, continue, honey. My children, whom I adore, are my life. David and Lisa are at school, and little Nathaniel was at playgroup this morning where I dropped him off. But an hour or so ago, my mom picked him up. The older 2 children will go to Grandma's for tea after school, and I will meet them there and tell them that their mother will never come home. Leslie sat stunned. I continued my story of grief. All my wife's things are in black garbage bags in the garage, and all the locks on my house were changed this morning. I took another deep breath. About 3 weeks ago, I found out that my children are not my children. The DNA clinic said that the probability that I am the father is worse than 1,000,000 to 1. Oh, Alan, I'm so sorry. Is it possible that the clinic mixed up your sample with someone else? Shouldn't we do it again? No chance, I said sadly. With my mother's blessing, I sent her samples along with mine and the children's. There were 2 samples each, so they kept one as a backup. The results confirmed that my mother and I are closely related, but there is virtually no chance that her grandchildren are even remotely related to her, never mind the results. They are still my children. I just wanted to check the results to find out the extent of my wife's duplicity. I may not be their biological father, but I am 100% their father and always will be. Their sperm donor will never get their hands on them. By this time, I felt myself starting to speak loudly. Rosamond looked at me strangely from her place at the counter. Even Leslie looked sad and worried now, holding both of my hands. Of course, these are my children, I reasoned, calming down. I sat at home with them, fed, changed, and bathed them. I looked after them during their illnesses, took them to vaccinations, their first steps, first words, first days at nursery school, high school, all their games, activities, homework. They had my speech, my manners, my family values. They didn't have the same morals as their mother and biological father, who were having an intimate with each other in the hotel room above us this afternoon. The children almost certainly have the same father, which means my wife has been regularly sleeping with the same lover for 12 years, at least as long as I've been married to her. Well, she's always had an appetite for him today. I washed them both. I'm so sorry. I wish I could stay, but I have to go, Alan. I have another meeting in town, and I'm late because I should have left a long time ago. Come here, Alan, please, honey. Leslie stood up and pulled me close, and we hugged each other like 2 ex-lovers comforting each other over a great loss. I buried my face in her sweet-smelling red hair. I cried quiet, selfish tears for what I had lost. I heard the elevator ding. We both heard it at the same time. We turned towards the sound, the elevator doors opened, and several people got out. An elderly, smiling couple walked out first, holding hands, smiling, and looking around to get their bearings. They saw Leslie and me hugging each other and waved happily. Leslie waved back automatically. Then, a couple of businessmen with conference badges and several brochures in their hands, engrossed in conversation, came out behind them, almost bumping into the back of the elderly couple, who stopped to look at Leslie and me. The elevator then ejected its last 2 passengers, a man and a woman holding hands and carrying small overnight bags. They made a wonderful couple. He was tall, tan, blonde, freshly shaven, stunningly handsome, and wearing an expensive handmade suit. He was clearly old money, with a sizable fortune. She was a little shorter, slender, brunette, dressed just as stylishly, but she was an arrogant, driven, ambitious control freak, certainly beautiful, even radiant. They looked only at each other, and leaving the elevator, kissed passionately and moved away in different directions, holding outstretched hands as long as possible, maintaining smiling eye contact. Undoubtedly, everyone was thinking, "See you soon, darling." I let go of Leslie, walked around the leather chair with thick buttons, and resolutely headed towards the elevator. Looking over my shoulder, I asked, "Keep an eye on my laptop, please, Leslie. I'll be back soon." She nodded, and I smiled at the nice older couple as I walked past them, although my smile may have been a little dark. The businessmen saw my determined approach and nervously parted to allow me to pass between them, and there they were, a couple oblivious to anything but themselves, fingertips still touching as a sign of goodbye. "Natalie," I said sharply, as if addressing a naughty child. She looked back, somewhat shocked to see me. "Alan, what?" I looked away from her amazed eyes and focused my attention on him. "Old man, it's not what it seems." Her lover began, but I stopped him with a blow to the bridge of his nose with my right fist. Those punching bag sessions in the school gym bore fruit. He fell like a sack of potatoes, blood gushing from his nose, splattering both Natalie and me. Natalie screamed, shrill, short, and sharp, cute. There was a strangled scream behind me. I turned to see Leslie, her purse slung over one shoulder, her briefcase in one hand, and my laptop clutched in the other. Her face was gloomy, disapproving, perhaps she hated violence. She wouldn't hurt a fly. I remembered, Leslie only hurt me by rejecting me. A groan from behind warned me that Natalie's lover was getting up. I turned, raising my fists into a defensive position that my boxing coach at the gym had recently taught me. He assured me that I would never become a contender, but he taught me both how to hit and how to take tough blows. Just land 1 or 2 good blows, he said wisely, and remember them while you recover from the beating you're about to take. Alan, you're a writer, not a fighter, I cursed. Damn, I wasn't even a better lover than I was a fighter. His handsome face no longer looked so handsome, his lips distorted into a terrible grimace. He was taller, heavier, and had more range than me, but I had taken a few hits over the last month or so and was willing to give as much as I took. I thought my beating would be cathartic. He also held his fists comfortably, moving his legs well as he circled me. Our eyes wearied, looking at each other. Hell, he was probably trained in school and probably continued to train regularly since then. Roger! A scream came out of nowhere and momentarily distracted his attention from me. He looked to his right and then a flash of silver hit him in the face. This time he fell backwards. Natalie was on her knees and sobbing next to her prostrate lover. I turned to face Leslie. She was holding my mangled laptop. Sorry, I'm right-handed, she said by way of apology. Nothing that can't be replaced. I shrugged, freeing her from the wreck. I'll call the office and reschedule the next meeting for the morning, she said, taking her phone out of her bag. I assume your mother still serves fish fingers and alphabet spaghetti to the children for tea almost every time? I said the perfect comfort food. I haven't had a fish stick sandwich with ketchup for years. Do you think she keeps a large supply in the refrigerator? On the way to the high-rise building, there is an Iceland store. We'll stock up. Better to play it safe. Great. She found the desired entry in the telephone directory and dialed the number. Don't make an appointment too early in the morning, I said. Mr. Jones, Leslie. Look, something unexpected came up, so excuse me tomorrow afternoon at the same time. Great, see you later. Bye. She put the phone down and looked at me again with soft gray-blue eyes. I think introductions are necessary, she said. Meet hubby, otherwise known as Roger, my soon-to-be ex-husband. Roger, oh, he's still passed out. Perhaps Alan, you can recommend a good lawyer. I have her business card somewhere, I said. I'll look for it for you later. Thank you, she smiled. So, he wasn't the one. I took a risk, holding out my hand to her, still looking. He wasn't the one, not for a millisecond, not in a million years. I've decided, Alan, she said, threading her thin, graceful hand into mine, and we purposefully moved towards the exit. I took out a 10, changed my mind, and made it 15, and handed it to Rosamond, who was hanging open-mouthed. Am I still looking? Leslie continued. I never stopped for 20 years. I tried to find the one again. What do you think of our story today? I think it was very upsetting to find out from my husband's side that your children are not actually biologically yours. How do you feel about that? Write in the comments. See you in the next video.